the solemnity of this occasion, and it is in complete contrast with Diana. I mean, two different circumstances. I think the interesting...
Well, just for those watching can see the hearse now leaving the gates of RAF Northolt. Sorry, Cam.
No. And I think you mentioned earlier the operation order here, Operation London Bridge, for the arrangements for the Queen's funeral, in complete contrast to Diana's, of course, because no one expected, Diana to die at that young age. And interesting enough, when I was there, what we had to do was actually lift the operation order of the Queen Mother, Operation Tay Bridge at that point, and to click the button to put into progress, how we were to deal with this. But, what I found so interesting here is that everyone talks about the quietness and stillness. And I was at Buckingham Palace earlier today. And I was amazed that, given the numbers of people there, just how quiet it was.
It's almost eerie, isn't it?
But it was. But I think that we've had so many members of the royal family talk about in great reflection and fondness of the Queen, and this is the time to talk about fun and laughter, but of course, the Queen will be remembered for her sense of humour, as indeed the King has said now on so many occasions. But the interest in this event has been extraordinary. But Operation London Bridge, Operation Unicorn in Edinburgh in Scotland. This is a sort of a fine-tuned operation, both by the police and government, to guarantee the safety of the Queen herself now in her final days, and also to protect the public. I mean, we hear of upwards of 750,000 people invading London, coming to show their respects, and the concerns about security. But from my own experience, having worked in the process of the late Queen Mother's Operation Order Tay Bridge when she died in 2002. One thing we can be certain of course, is the expertise of the Yard and the policing of major ceremony events such as this. I mean, it is second to none, because nowhere in the world has there ever been such an operation order, whereby, there's a completely transcend what we see today. But there are concerns.
Well, there are concerns, but I have to say, for my money, I think that the government effectively telling people don't come to London because London could be full, it could be dangerous. Do you know something? There are going to be 10,000 police on duty, several thousand soldiers on duty. We can, from the very window we're sitting at, see the route that people will walk up, so that they can go into Westminster Hall. And everywhere I've gone, the mood is calm. It's not one of panic. It's not one of stampede. I think we're rather unnecessarily saying to people, don't come to London.
Well, I think so. I can understand it. We had that incident in Edinburgh yesterday when a lone protester made some remark at the Duke of York. But
so what?
But exactly. This happens all the time.
Yes.
If we look at what happened in 1981 when Her Majesty the Queen was shot at with blanks, thankfully, at the Trooping of the Colour, and so forth, this is inevitable. We cannot guard completely. Security doesn't guarantee 100%. But what I can say that, following that incident and many other royal incidents, of course, the Yard learned from the experience, and given the resources that we now have at our disposal, the Yard's disposal, with the assistance of the military, and a growing awareness of how to deal with these things, I'm pretty confident that this will go without an incident. And I think we can all sit back and reflect about this. And the passing of a monarch of 70 years, and we're never likely to see an event, none of us in the world today will see this again.
And when you heard the news, how did it affect you, Cam?
Well, I was saddened by it. And having sort of had the privilege of working within the royal family for 16 years, I had a few occasions of working with the Queen, notably mainly, of course, with Diana and the Prince of Wales. But Diana, the Prince of Wales, the King now, of course, he is. A difficult time for him during the 80s and 90s. But a man who was blessed with a great sense of humour, was a very compassionate man. There was I effectively on the other side, if you like.
Yeah, it was difficult. Yeah.
But he showed a great deal of respect and understood exactly the difficulties that I was working with at that particular time. And I personally think that, we have to put aside the differences of what happened there in the 80s and 90s and look forward to the future. Because I do think that we have a king here that will make differences. He wanted very much his two sons to be part of this change. Sadly, it looks as though he's lost 1/3 of that at the moment. But if we look at perhaps the rapprochement that's happened at Windsor recently, who knows? I mean, he'd be very, very keen to try and bring back the Duke of Nottingham in some shape or form. We don't know that. I don't know Nigel, but let's see what happens on that.
Yeah, I mean, if Harry doesn't publish that book, it might help just a little bit.
Well, I mean, he's going to have to do some reflecting here on this. And it's not a question of publishing a book to actually make money out of it. He doesn't need that. Maybe, now, and I was thinking about this today only, that maybe this is the chance, maybe he'd be thinking of actually pulping this book. Because, what's the damage of this? I think that, I think maybe he will reflect on this.
I agree. Some snap polling out today saying 73% think King Charles III has made a very good start. As few as 5% think he's done badly or very badly. Just your thoughts on King Charles III?
I think he's made a remarkable, warming approach to his kingship. I think he's shown a great deal of humility, and given the fact that the publicity that surrounded this and the difficulties that I'm sure that he's been thinking of, through the last few days, and notably what's happened in his life, the changes from, his divorce with his first wife, the meeting of the committee, and all of that garnered a great deal of negative publicity at the time. I think he's moved very, very forward on this, and my own view is, having met him on many, many occasions, I've always admired his sense of humour and his charisma and his warmth, really. And I think he's shown that in the last few days wherever he's been. I think we've seen a very tactile prince, certainly outside of Buckingham Palace and indeed in Scotland, wherever he's been. And I think I think it bodes very well actually for him. And I have views, of course, of the past, but I do wish him well, and I think the country will be better for King Charles III.